Hello and welcome to the show. Are we ready to have an amazing time today? So excited to be here with you all. We have a huge treat. We're getting the live stream going. Welcome those of you watching on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, those of you watching on LinkedIn, those of you here in our Zoom room live audience for our inner circle. We're so happy that you're here. Welcome to the show. Are we ready to rise? We're going to have a really, really exciting time today. We're going to have two exciting pieces happening today, and you are in for an enormous treat because we're going to bring up an incredible guest that I'm going to tell you all about, the amazing, the beautiful, the brilliant, the talented Claudine, who is going to share with us. We're going to dive into a really crucial topic for any thought leader who's writing a book, which is mastering the book cover. How important are book covers? How do you make a differentiating, breakthrough, magnetic book cover that's going to have people who both know you and have never heard of you want to grab that book, want to read the book, whether it's seeing it on a digital screen, seeing it in a bookstore. And in order to help us really talk about the mastery of book cover design, we are so lucky and so incredibly lucky to have Claudine here today. And team, if you'll bring Claudine up, great. Okay, Claudine, I need to let everyone know some things about you because you are singularly, I will say, in the world, one of the leading top people in book cover design. You have done some incredible things in the field, and I want everybody to know how lucky we are to have Claudine. So Claudine is here. She's a graphic designer specializing in publishing, marketing, branding, website, and even music design. And Claudine's been a published art director for 30 years. Claudine, you've designed book covers and interiors for 6 Nobel Prize winners. From Nobel Prize winners to emerging authors, people for their very first book that have never written a book before, all the way to Nobel Prize winners. And you've worked for Random House, Harcourt, Rolling Stone magazine. You've designed over 850 book covers and even featured covers for authors like the Dalai Lama, President Jimmy Carter, Virginia Woolf, Herman Hesse, T.S. Eliot, and Pope John Paul II. Can everyone do the Home Alone like this? We do this with our faces like, oh. Claudine, thank you so much for being here.
You are so sweet. Thank you for this absolute honor to be with you. I truly appreciate it. This is wonderful.
Tell us all how to pronounce your last name so that we have it locked in.
Mansour.
Perfect. I want everyone to get it. Mansour. All right, Claudine Mansour. So I want us all to pronounce it right, not Mansour. No, just Claudine Mansour. Claudine, we are so incredibly lucky. I'm so lucky to have the chance to work with you as the cover designer for Thought Leader Academy Publishing. You are going to be doing all my book covers. You're doing our current thought leaders who are in Thought Leader Academy Publishing, doing these extraordinary covers. We just had Carol Looks hit the bestseller list last month. We've got, Tanya's gorgeous cover. We were up in the Times Square billboards. Much of your work was blasted all around New York City and beyond last week. So what we want to get into today, do you want to just let everyone know what drew you? Why book covers? Why do you feel the passion that you clearly have for this?
To be very honest with you, it was completely by accident. I
love it.
I was interning at Rolling Stone magazine when I was in college. The art director there was a professor of mine. And after graduation, he asked me to stay on. I was working there for a little bit. And I was told of a job opportunity at Random House to assist one of the art directors there, art director of Times Books, which is a now defunct nonfiction imprint of Random House. And once I was in book publishing, I was completely hooked. I love books. I love the physicality of a real book in my hands. Of course, I do Kindle now as well, too. But, there's still something about a book in my hands, which is just very special. Like I said, I was hooked. One position led to another. So
life finds you, and you were called to this path. And, most of us probably when we wrote a essay in 3rd grade, what do I want to be when I grow up? I would doubt many of us are doing whatever we might have written. Maybe, of course, there are inklings there of our, the essence of it, but probably not like what the role is my guess. So, Claudine, what I want to talk about today, this is exciting. When the pandemic was happening, like many of us, I was sitting around feeling like I need a project, not that we need another, but I wanted to do something inspiring. And so I decided to do a poll of bookstore owners from all over, mainly North America, but, we did open it up around the world. And we really talked about book titles. We did a big thing about like the title and like what's important to a bookstore owner when they order books or sell books, or what do we need to know about titles. And we did this really fabulous poll, and everyone griped. The bookstore owners talked about what they can't stand in certain titles and what they need in titles to be ordered, to really compellingly sell. And of course, the topic of the cover design is intrinsically linked in certain ways because the title and the cover design play off each other. What I never got to do was talk to someone like yourself who was a real expert at book cover design. I was talking to the sellers, right? The bookstore owners. And I think we polled like 2,000 across the country. And we had some really interesting insights that I've shared in, previous shows and things. What I want to talk about today, Claudine, is overall, what do we all need to be thinking about in terms of cover design? So if we had to say what are the most important 1, 2, or 3 things to be thinking about, because authors kind of fall in love with their own vision, but you're thinking about it from the standpoint of both the fine art and also the reader, the bookstore owner, digital and hard copy. That's going to be part 1. And then I do want to talk about trends as we're kind of completing a year and going into a new year. I just want to see, is there anything kind of emerging that you're seeing in the book design, cover design world that we should know about? So let's start with the first part. If you're talking, when our authors come in, I'm going to be bringing you my manuscript soon. I'm finishing this book. By God, you guys, by Thanksgiving, this book is going to be done or almost done. And so someone sits down with you, they're bringing you the book. What are the most important things that you want us as the authors to know?
Okay. So first of all, let me begin by giving my 2 cents on exactly what a cover is and what it is supposed to do. So a book cover is meant to attract the attention of the potential reader. It is meant to say, pick me up, I'm interesting. And once you get someone's attention, then they pick it up and they inspect it. Oh, this looks like I might want to buy it. Really, the job of the book cover is almost finished at that point. It is to grab the attention. What does a person usually do after they have a book in their hands, or if they click on it on Amazon? They turn it around and they read the back cover copy.
Yep.
So the book cover is your number 1 marketing piece. So attention needs to be paid to that book cover. So if your neighbor's, grandson is a graphic design student and he tells you he can do it for, a fraction of the cost as a professional book designer, just keep in mind that if that's going to happen, unless he's, a prodigy, if that's not going to happen, you need to be prepared for possibly lower book sales. Your marketing piece is so important. It needs to compete with a sea of thousands of other covers that have been professionally designed. You are competing with the big houses. You are not competing with only the self-publishers or only the small publishers. It's everyone together. There's, all kinds of fish in the sea, and they're all swimming together. So
Yes.
that is number 1. And because your back cover is your second marketing piece, it's basically free advertisement. Here's the back cover. That copy needs to be really important. It shouldn't be just a 5-minute. It needs to be very thoughtful. Let's start with a headline on the top to, captivate the potential buyer. Let's have a short descriptive paragraph. Maybe we have some quotes on the back ad that, from someone famous or an expert in that field. And, let's prove to the audience that the author knows what it is they're writing about. Maybe there's a short author bio and a small author photo. Some people like to connect with the author photo. Not everyone likes that. That's totally fine. There are no rules here. But again, that is your marketing piece. And the rest of your marketing campaign for your book, should you have one, really flows and stems from the cover. So that is the look. That is your book's logo in a way.
Yeah.
And that is something that really needs to be paid attention to. So what one would need to know about the cover is really it needs to be attractive. It needs to be alluring. It needs to be exciting, but it could be quiet and exciting at the same time. It doesn't have to be loud to be exciting. Ooh, maybe there's an air of mystery about it, or maybe it's just plain beautiful. Maybe it's just the connection between the cover image and the cover title don't seem to make sense, but wow, that is an interesting combination. Or if it says the brown box and then you have a picture of a brown box, that's not that exciting. You can sort of mix it up a little bit. But to do something really interesting and, oh, that looks like something I may want to read. So that's definitely number one, is it's got to be exciting.
I know a lot of you are going to be taking notes and sort of thinking about this as you envision. Obviously, if you work with someone like Claudine, if they're working with you, it's a whole different thing because you're there guiding this process and you're already going to be thinking this way. But just for everyone to even start envisioning your book cover, I've heard two things that reinforce exactly what you're saying, Claudine, that aren't just for the book world, for images in general, any kind of marketing image. And look, your book cover is a marketing piece. You just told us the job of the book cover is to break through. Remember, we have a 2.9-second attention span barrier right now in the world with adults. So you got to break through the 2.9-second attention span and hook someone's attention for the book. And what doesn't work, like you said, is it's called the brown box and you have a picture of a brown box that creates no interesting, but what I hear you talking about is juxtaposition. And so when I hear about imagery, you either, the two things we want to do that you're talking about, Claudine, I just want to kind of pull out for everybody is one, you are creating the emotional feeling that the person wants from the book. Like you said, that could be quiet. It could be peaceful. It could be exciting. It could be bombastic. Like it could be a lot of things, but what's the emotional tone of like sort of the transformation of this book? You want that reflected in the book cover because that's going to create that interest, right? And then also to use the C's that people talk about. It can be confusion, contradiction, curiosity. Like when we think about these C's in marketing, what for imagery, particularly like visual imagery, Claudine, I think that so is what you're talking about here. If it's called the brown box and you have a woman on a bicycle, like with arms free, it's like, ooh, is she getting out of a box? Was someone trying to keep her in a box? Like what, we're curious, confused. Why is it called the brown box? But we're something. And if you get any of the C's, curiosity, confusion, contradiction, and there's two more that I'm not remembering right now. Those are the main ones. You're already like, you're creating an attention grab, right? It needs to be alluring, it needs to be attractive. It needs to create some kind of gravitational pull that it evokes something.
And so two things about that. First of all, sometimes after all the editors and your team, your publishing team have weighed in, sometimes the brown box is really the only thing that's going to make sense on the cover. That will happen once in a while. If that's the case, it's going to be the most beautiful brown box you've ever seen. It's going to be, designed and displayed with the exact tone of the rest of the book. And it's just going to be a magnificent brown box. That happens sometimes. So we have to be prepared for everything, right? So the second thing is you're not going to please everybody. Everyone has an immediate and deep reaction to something visual. It's a very emotional reaction. You are not going to please everyone. It's just as simple as that. You get in a room with, 10 of your publishing team. If they're all on board with a cover, that's amazing. If they're all on board with a title, that's amazing. Everyone is going to have a different opinion. Everyone has their own experience and their own aesthetics and their own background to which they're coming to the meeting to share with. To have a unanimous decision, sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. So just be prepared for that. Another thing that as an author you need to be prepared with is an open mind. How many times do people tell me, oh, I don't have a creative bone in my body, please just do whatever you think is right. I have some authors who tell me, I've always wanted to have a giraffe on my cover and the type should be in blue because, I want to make sure that the author is happy. Of course, you always want to have a happy author and you want to do the job well. But what if a giraffe really isn't the best thing on a cover? So whenever I do have an author who, tells me what they're interested in, and I always like to get that out up front. If you have a designer that you're working with, tell them everything at the beginning. Don't tell them a month down the line about your giraffe idea because then you wasted a lot of time. So I always offer my own solutions as well. I'll give you the giraffe, but I'll give you, 3 or 4 other options as well. So you do have to be open to the possibility that the giraffe may not work. And just, be honest with yourself, be honest with the team, and just be prepared for something like that. So just going into it with an open mind, having some flexibility. Cover copy is very important. You were talking about titles. Sometimes the title is poetic and it just evokes a certain feeling or a mood, or it resonates with someone in a different way. Even on nonfiction, that could work out. Sometimes you have titles which are just bare bones and factual and to the point. And sometimes that works too. The relationship between the title and the subtitle is very important. Not only do they work together, but they work together with the cover. It's really important that I have complete cover copy before I start a cover design, because if the title changes, that could completely change my cover idea. It also could not. There have been, times where, all right, that title works just fine, but not all the time. So let's be as correct as we can from the beginning. Let's take that extra week, focus, and really come up with our title, our subtitle, and get that going. And everything needs to work together. It is a puzzle, and all the pieces need to sort of jive together.
Yeah, to make that final picture, the title, the colors, the imagery, if there's photography, if there's illustrative graphics, if it's just typeface, it's like you're using, like, I think of Brene Brown's Daring Greatly. They really worked with, like, putting the words on their side and, doing a sort of ombre, sort of just, it was really about the words and creating a design out of the words. So what do you like any trends in terms of book design, or is it like, no, it's always about the essence of this book, what makes this book unique? Sometimes industries do go through trends, right? There's trends, and we certainly see it in book genres. And then have you tell us some trends to look for in book types and genres. You saw a trend 10 years ago of suddenly the supernatural romance. Everyone, that became a whole genre, whereas that would have been sort of this outlier. It now is like a whole section of the bookstore, right? Or you saw suddenly those sort of irreverent, you are a badass, the subtle art of not giving an F, like that sort of irreverent personal growth trend happened. There's all kinds of, versions of this. So Claudia, anything we want to keep in mind for trends?
So that is a tricky question. How much do you want to pay attention to that and how much do you not? So it's the balance between keeping with the trend, or what I like to call just being current and being relevant to today's market, and also doing what's best for your book. At the end of the day, doing what's best for your book is really the bottom line. And that's what everyone needs to focus on. At the same time, it does need to look current and fresh and not dowdy. I had an author about 3 years ago who we were having a hard time. And I said, I usually ask authors at the beginning of the process to maybe send me covers that they like. I just want to sort of feel their aesthetics and see what there is that they're attracted to. She didn't do it for whatever reason. And then finally she did it. She sent me 2 covers. One was the most boring thing you've ever seen. It was about 40 years old. I kid you not. And there is nothing fresh and modern and trendy about this whatsoever. So right away I thought, oh goodness, we have quite a battle here. So right now there is a big trend in fiction for sure with illustrations. People are using a lot of beautiful, beautiful illustration.
Right.
That's great. The problem with small publishers and individual authors is those illustrations are costly. And those are pretty much reserved, again, generally speaking, for the larger houses that do have those budgets.
Sure.
So either we can, take some stock imagery and put it all together. I had a client just last week say, "Oh, I hate Shutterstock. Shutterstock gives you images for $10. Back in the day, I used to have to, contract images for about $1,000.
Right.
And $10 is pretty good, but it's not so much the image, it's what you do with it. That's going to be your basis. And then what are you going to do? Are you going to integrate it in a bigger piece of art? Are you going to layer it with other images? Are you going to, just have it interact with your typography? How is that all going to work? So we can do some illustration with some stock art. Sometimes it works great, and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it's a combination of that and photography. So the art cost is definitely a factor. Another trend that's big and has been big is the use of sans serif fonts. A lot of people are using sans serif, and that's great, but I love my serifs, and I'm still going to use them. And at the end of the day, again, it's what's best for the book while keeping current and relevant.
I love the distinction you're making between a trend versus being current and relevant, because I think for all of us, we're about, everybody in this community, everyone listening, you're about authenticity, right? And so sometimes you're going to, as people like Kelly Roach say, zig when other people zag. If the big trend is everyone's doing illustrations, it could actually be great for you to not do an illustration and break out in your, I like going to the bestsellers in my niche every time I finish a book before I meet with cover designer. And I go through and see, like, what's the trend in the books of the last 2 years that did the best in my genre. And then often I will come at it with the idea to go completely. It's like, God, there's so many orange covers. So I'm not going to do an orange cover. Instead of thinking I'm going to do an orange cover,
Right.
I'm like,
Absolutely.
if the women's wealth books are 90% orange, my one is going to be a different one, right? That kind of thing. So
Absolutely.
I think it's good to know current and relevant. And then, like you said, not to be dowdy or dated. I think that's the difference. You've all seen, they'll re-release Pride and Prejudice that's been around since the late 1800s, but they'll do a cool, modern cover for it, or same with even Shakespeare's, plays as Penguin re-releases all that stuff at different times. So I think it's about, authenticity, like you said, what's right for the book, but also relevancy and currency more than trend, because the book is a legacy piece. It's going to live way beyond our lifetimes. That's what's so beautiful about what you do, Claudine, is bring these legacy pieces, these masterpieces in, and give them the cover they deserve, for all the hard work that everyone here is doing in writing your books. And you're really matching that with an exquisite and just world-class cover design. But I think relevancy and currency is good to either, so you can differentiate, or so that you can tap in and do your authentic version of, some particular trend. So I really love that distinction that you've brought to us. And I think, like you said, cost is important. Are you, like, if you're, a celebrity and the publishing house is happy to spend, tens of thousands of dollars on an illustrator, fine. If you're a emerging thought leader, and Claudine, you've worked from everyone from household names to brand new people in their niche, then it's like, what's going to work. And what I love is you collaborate and really draw out not just the author's vision, but you take us somewhere beyond. And then you show them another possibility, and they might fall completely in love. And that certainly happened to me with my fiction collection, Ghost House, which I didn't know you then, so I didn't get to work with you on. But what I loved is that I just knew I wanted something very atmospheric. And it's a very weird book. It's feminist ghost stories. It's very odd. It's a very strange, sort of collection, but it's really, women's empowerment, like all the stuff is. And the designer came back with this just exquisite, this womanly, couldn't tell, is she underwater, her hair is flowing. It's very mysterious and magical and moody. And I was like, that's it. I don't need to see another thing. But I never could have gone to a designer and said, get this woman who's sort of underwater with blue looking at, I would never have even thought to do that, because I didn't even have that. So I think the open-mindedness that you've pointed us to of, if you can get to the essence, and then here's some examples. Claudine, is there anything else? I know we're about at our time, and you have a lot of covers. I know you're working on a lot of books right now. Is there anything else you want everybody to know as they're writing the book, as they're envisioning their cover? You've given us some great things, like don't come to you or any other designer before you've given this that really good thoughtfulness and visioning, so that it can be a great collaboration and an efficient partnership. Anything else you would love us all to know that would make your life and the other book designer, cover designers out there's lives better?
The other thing, and actually you already mentioned it, is do your research. It
Hmm.
is so important to look at the other books in your category, in your genre. Let's say if your book is going to be on a table, what other books are going to be at that on that table, selling as a group, for example. I have so many people say, oh, well, there is no competition. There are no other books like mine.
Yeah.
That's great, but it's still going to need to be sold next to something.
Right.
Do your research. It's like going to a party, you want to know what the dress code is
Mm.
because you want to know what the event is like. You want to fit in. You don't want to, stick out like a sore thumb, but you do want to stand out while being relevant and while being appropriate. So it's really important to know where you're going.
Because the book needs to be your personality. It's the transformation in to loop us all the way around to the beginning. But it's like if you're a fun, funny, big personality, you don't want a dainty, teeny, muted, earth tone
Right.
probably cover, right? Authenticity, open-mindedness, do your research, think about currency and relevancy versus trends, not getting caught up in a trend because a trend's going to pass anyway. And this is a legacy piece. And then really understanding that the purpose of the book cover is to get the attention for someone to flip or scroll, whether it's on screen or in a bookstore, to read the
Right.
book.
Right.
That's
And if you as an author do not have an idea, please don't fret. That is not your job to come up with a cover theme. That is your designer's job. If you do happen to have an idea, wonderful, share it with your designer. But please, please don't feel pressured or obliged to do that whatsoever.
Claudine, I'm so grateful to you. I want everyone to go www.claudinemansour.com. You can all check out if you want to see. I feel like this conversation is making me hungry to look at all your gorgeous covers. So everybody head over. We'll share that in the show notes. We'll share it here in the live audience. You can go to, and it's on the screen right now, Claudine's website. You can see these gorgeous, gorgeous covers that she's done, again, from everyone from popes to the Dalai Lama to people with their very, very, very first book. And we are so, again, the level of honor and gratitude I feel to get to have myself and our authors here at Thought Leader Academy get to do their covers with you. It's just, it's truly beyond a wildest dream to get to work with someone like you. So thank you for what you do and how you bring our work into the world and help us grab that attention and make the difference we came here to make.
Sarah, that is so nice of you. The pleasure is all mine, believe me. You are a wonderful, wonderful person to work with. Everyone, Sarah is such an expert, and just trust her. She knows exactly what she's doing. And I couldn't be luckier to be with you. So thank you. Thank you for your kind words.
Well, I'm very quite sure we'll have you back for another episode where we might do one where we pull up some covers. Would you all like that if we do a part two at some point where we get to like pull up some covers and maybe without throwing anyone under the bus, talk about maybe what doesn't work on covers that you see in the marketplace? And then we could do, because I think that would be really fun as well to do some like a visual breakdown. So if you're open to it, we'd love to have you back again and do some more cover, maybe some cover makeovers, even like what you would do, different. It's like if I got my hands on this book. So Audrey, you're here and Claudine just did your gorgeous cover that's coming out in January. Yeah. So thank you again, Claudine. We'll have you back. I'm so grateful you could make time for us today. And our audience is saying here, I've bought many books just because of the cover. Ditto.
Hi, Rosalind.
So everybody, are we inspired? I want everyone to think about one thing you're taking away from this conversation, whether you're just starting to conceive of a book in the next year, those of you that are in the process, what's one action you're going to take today that is going to help you be a powerful collaborator on your book cover when the time comes? Or for some of you, you're finishing your book like me. I'll be meeting with you, Claudine, in December. So I'm so excited.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.